Hi, I'm Femi OK and you're in the stream. Today, tensions continue to mount between Palestinians and Israelis as anger over the deaths of teenagers from both sides have been calling for revenge. So, this is a story literally unfolding as we speak. Our digital producer for the stream is Malika Bilal. What are you seeing online, Malika?
Well, people have lots of things to say, and we're opening this up, of course, to our international audience. And so one of the things we're seeing are questions for our guests today. This one comes from Claire. She tweeted just before the show began, what is to be done when both sides are concurrently coping with trauma? And that's a question we'll answer today during today's show. We can't do it without you, though, so tweet us your questions and your comments with hashtag AJStream.
Now, today's program was an idea that one of our community actually suggested, and if you have a story that you think that we have to do, well, tell us. Go to Google+, make your pitch, and you might just end up in the stream.
My name is Tasneem Atala. I'm a human rights activist and I'm in the stream.
It all began June the 12th when 3 Israeli teenagers went missing. This would set off the largest military operation in the West Bank in a decade. At least 5 Palestinians were reportedly killed by Israeli gunfire, more than 400 arrested, and thousands of homes raided during the 18-day search. On Monday, Israel's announcement that it discovered the teens' bodies near Hebron was quickly followed by nighttime airstrikes against Gaza, even though Hamas denies involvement. A few hours after the 3 boys were buried on Tuesday, the charred body of a 17-year-old Palestinian was found in Jerusalem, leading to clashes with Israeli police. Many suspect that that killing was revenge. So, we're going to speak to people in Gaza, the West Bank and Jerusalem to try and understand the sentiment on the ground. Joining us to help discuss this via Skype in Jerusalem, we have Eliana Gothenkel. She is an Israeli student. Hashem Abu Shama is a Palestinian activist and student. He joins us from Hebron. And with us via Google Plus Hangout in Jerusalem, we have Hen Mazig. He's Education Director at Stand With Us, an organization that supports Israel around the world. I am going to show you Hassan's place here. Hashim, this is a picture of where you live, and it's a mess. Why is it such a mess right now?
So on the 27th of June, we were all sleeping peacefully, and at the 3 a.m. I heard sounds in Hebrew, knocks on the doors. So my father woke up, opened the door, and around 10 soldiers, Israeli soldiers with their dogs, got into my house and started just randomly searching through the house. They asked for our IDs. They knew some information about us beforehand. They knew that I'm a student in the US. They knew that my brother is a doctor.
How did they know that?
And then, I think they have a very good spy system. We have many collaborators from a refugee camp who get pressured by the Israeli soldiers to collaborate with them from when they are young, like 16 years old.
So the early hours of the morning, what were they looking for?
They were looking for the settlers, but I have so they took our IDs, they took 2 of my brothers, started going through the house, and I was put in the corner and interrogated. And he started threatening me that I wouldn't be able to go back to the US. And during these times, I take his sentence very seriously, because as a Palestinian who lives in a refugee camp, I work in Ramallah, and during the past few weeks, I couldn't get to my work because my ID says I'm from Hebron.
And
so the house was.
Yeah, and Hashim, this is all because of this major search for these 3 young Israeli teens. Do you think because they went missing that this was justified for them, for the soldiers to come looking? I mean, they had to try and find out what happened to the kids, right?
Yeah, I don't think what I saw in my house and in my refugee camp, I don't think it's an operation to look for the settlers. I mean, in my house, they searched through all of the rooms, turned it into a mess as if a hurricane has passed through. And the water well, they didn't even check it. And I think that's the place where you could even, hide settlers. And they didn't look or search through the garden around my house. They just wanted to humiliate us as Palestinians. So what I see in the ground is not an operation to look for the settlers. And even when they got into my refugee camp, they started shooting gas grenades randomly. And they got into a very old woman's house. She was there by herself. Her son was actually killed by Israeli soldiers in 1993, so she has a very long history with the Israeli occupation. and she actually had a heart attack, and she died that night because the Israeli soldiers didn't let the ambulance get in. And I question, how would this help them find the settlers?
All right, so stop there for a moment. Eliana, you heard what Hashim was saying. A very open question there. How would doing what the soldiers did to him and his household and to hundreds of other people, how would that help find the missing teens?
So first of all, I would like to just go back to what he was saying. He was calling the settlers. I just would like to make sure for everyone to know that these kids were teens. Two of them were not living in settlement. They can't be called settlers. They were indeed studying in a place that is part of Judea, but I don't think they can be called settlers. That's the first thing. The second thing I'm asking here. Wait. Do you mind if I just finish my sentence? Thank you. I'll let you speak. Thank you. The second thing I would like to say is that okay that a whole population is backing the kidnapping of 3 teenagers, 16, 19? Is that okay that a whole population is helping the people to hide their about them? And unfortunately, the past has told us as Israelis that it is not the first time that kids or Israeli citizens are being kidnapped and then being hidden in the West Bank or in Gaza. I can't remind you the story of Gilad Shalit. Gilad Shalit that has been kidnapped for 5 years, and he was hiding in the middle of the population in Gaza. So again, the Israeli forces, with the support of the Palestinian Authority, it's very important to mention that fact, with the support of the Palestinian Authority, has gone through Hebron, because they knew that in Hebron there was a high chance that the corpse or the kids would be found there, and they found them next to the area.
So what I hear now is not a suggestion for how to respond to the kidnapping of the Israeli settlers. What I hear is a justification for the operation that the Israeli army is doing. And I want to correct. Let me finish my sentence. I want to correct Eliana. It's not called Judea. This is an occupational term. It's called West Bank in Palestine. And there were settlers. They live in Josh Atzion, right next to where I live. It's 1 mile away from here. And if you're talking about kids, if you're talking about teens, during the operation, 8 Palestinians have been killed, and one of them is only 14-year-old. He used to go to the school, and after that he would go to work to bring some income for his family. He was in the street doing nothing, and then an Israeli soldier came and attacked him and killed him. And you have another mentally disabled guy. He was going to the mosque at 4 a.m. in Nablus, in Al-Ain refugee camp, and he was killed by 4 live ammunition by Israeli soldiers.
Right.
So I'm very sad that the world is being so.
These are information I haven't heard of.
Okay, so guests, just hold tight, Eliana and Hashim, hold tight for a moment, because this conversation has a lot more people in it. We'll come back to you. Malika.
Well, Ken, I actually want to bring you in here with some views online that I'm seeing that people say this sounds like a cycle. Delaney tweets in, no amount of revenge killings can bring back our boys, and she uses a hashtag that was used when the 3 first went missing. She says there's always 2 sides to a story, and bombing Gaza is just sickening and immature. Another person tweets in, this is Olu, who says this is a traumatic game of revenge on both sides. The losers are poor souls of Israelis and Palestinians at the center of retaliation. So, Chen, do you see this as a cycle of revenge, as these people on Twitter said?
I don't know if it's a cycle of revenge. I have to say that, I served in the Israeli army for 5 years. I served in Hebron, and I saw what war is, and my heart is coming out to Hashem and to everything that he went through. It's awful, it's sad, and it's no one should be living in this way. But we are talking today about 3 teenagers that were kidnapped and murdered, and I listened to the tape today. I'm not a man that cries very easily, but today it was the first time in the last year that I actually dropped tears when I listened to the videotape of one of the teenagers calling to the police, asking for help, and then you hear someone saying with an Arabic accent, telling him, put your head down, and then gunshots and a gunshot and a gunshot. We need to understand what is the issue here, why all of this operation has started. And it didn't start because of 16,000 rockets that have been launched from the Gaza Strip towards Israel in the last, from 2009. It didn't start because between the days of Monday and Tuesday, tens of rockets was launched. Only today, 21 rockets were launched from the Gaza Strip into Israel. So when Israel responds, Israel is not responding only for that, it's responding for Hamas for kidnapping 3 Israeli teenagers. It's a horrible thing. And I have a cousin that I was with him today, and I can't imagine what these families are going through today.
All right, let me just bring into our conversation Hazem Balusha. Hazem is an independent journalist. Hazem, something that I heard that Eliana said was she said the entire population of Palestinians, Eliana, do jump in and correct me if I'm wrong, but she said the entire population was responsible for the 3 missing children. When I asked her about...
This is not what I said. This is really not what I said.
All right, so just correct me because I wrote down the entire population. Just to make sure that I get this correct.
That the main answer to the kidnapping was a backing from the Palestinian population. If it is the Facebook page of Mahmoud Abbas that was showing a cartoon being happy about the kidnapping of the kids, if it is scenes of joy and of what's called people celebration.
Okay, because I wrote down whole population, which was a direct quote from you. So let me just go back to Hazem and just fact check.
Whole population, but not with the right. No, I didn't say the whole population.
You did because I wrote it. You wrote it down. But Eliana, let me move back to Hazem and just say you were listening in to Eliana. Did you feel that what she was saying as a journalist, she was getting her facts right?
I couldn't hear you. I couldn't hear her very well because there was a bit noise in the sound. But it's actually, who's talking about Gaza and Palestinians? I mean, especially from the Israelis, like Eliana and the other guy. They know nothing about Gaza. They never been in Gaza. They have nothing. They are getting the information from the Israeli media only, I guess. And even the media, when they cover the action on the ground, they don't give the real and the actual things that are happening on the ground. Actually, being in Gaza is itself, being a Palestinian and living in Gaza is it's not easy itself. I'm now in Gaza. I have no electricity. I have you would wonder I have a light. Yeah, of course, because I have a battery.
Yeah.
We are living in such situation. We have 8 hours at least per day off without electricity.
Sure. And this is why you're actually on the telephone right now, because we started with you not on the telephone, on Skype, and then we had to move to the telephone because of the connectivity issue. Okay, so let me just move on just a little bit, Hazem, and just bring in Malika and the community, because I know they have questions and they're curious about what's happening right now.
Right. Well, it's actually picking up on what you were saying, Hazem, that people are talking about collective punishment and whether this represents that. So Hashem, have a listen to this tweet. This is Joe. He says, this is not about how it's described. This is what it is. By definition, it's collective punishment. He says the UN must act. Another person sent us this video comment on the same lines. Hashem, have a listen to this.
Within hours of finding the bodies of the young Israeli men, the Israeli government immediately started bombing parts of Gaza as a collective punishment almost against Hamas, who they deemed to be the perpetrators of the crimes. I do not agree with such wholesale collective punishment because I believe such collective punishment is only going to fester more ill will between the Palestinian people and the Israelis.
Hashem, do you agree with him? Do you feel like you're being collectively punished?
Of course.
I actually believe so. I think I mentioned the example of being prevented from entering Ramallah and other areas in Palestine just because.
It sounds like Hazem and Hashem are talking here. So Hashem, why don't you start first, and Hazem, we can get your thoughts after.
Okay, I think I mentioned the example before that as a person from Hebron who works in Ramallah, I was prevented for the past few weeks from getting to my work just because I'm from Hebron, and I think this is collective punishment because I had nothing to do. And thank you for your story. My condolences go to the Israeli settlers and their families. As a Palestinian who experiences injustice on a daily basis, this kidnapping brings so many bad memories to mind of Israeli soldiers actually kidnapping Palestinian kids from my.
Excuse me, how many Palestinians were kidnapped? Palestinian teenagers were kidnapped and shot. It's an horrible comparison. You should not compare between. It's a horrible thing. It doesn't matter who you are. If you're a settler, if you're an Israeli, or if you're a Muslim, it doesn't matter. It's an awful thing. Just show the compassion. That's all.
Okay, thank you so much for your comment. I think I showed my compassion. My idea is.
Okay, so at the moment, guess just hold tight for a moment because I'm hearing a lot of different voices and I can only cope with one at a time. Hazam, can you jump in here because I know we were talking about collective punishment. What was your take on that?
Well, I mean, let me say something. You know, like for me, I mean, as a Palestinian, it's not about me, but about Palestinians. We are talking about like 3 generations. They have nothing. They have nothing. You know, they know nothing about Israel. But through the bombardment, the bloodshed, the rockets, the killing, the siege, the blockade, and restricting life, restricting. What do you expect from Palestinians who are living under this for decades? For nothing. You know, you are asking Palestinians in Gaza to be peaceful and to act normally with all of such circumstances. They have no, even the basic things of life. You know, we have no electricity, we have no
Hazem, can I ask you a question?
we have no water, we have no access to travel, we have okay. You know, like Israel is controlling everything. You know,
right.
like
Hazem, Eliana wants to ask you a question, so take a pause. Eliana, go ahead.
No, my question is just, do you think it's right to bomb Israel for the past almost 10, 12 years? That in the past 8 years there's been 15,000 rockets falling on Israel?
Personally, I don't agree. I mean, violence is violence. I don't agree, like, you know, but I can understand how the Palestinians would think about that.
Eliana,
you know,
Eliana, let Hazem
let me answer this.
Answer your question.
Because this is very important. I mean, like, you know, like being in Gaza. I mean, you never been in Gaza. I'm not like defending things, but I'm not defending the firing rockets out of Gaza. I'm personally against this. But I can understand how the people Palestinians think about this. You know, like you are talking about numbers of rockets were out, thousands of rockets, but you don't know how thousands of people were killed out of the Israeli bombardment in Gaza. You don't know like about how many people become disabled out of because they become injured because of Israeli action in Gaza. You don't know about thousands and hundreds of thousands of houses were demolished because of the Israeli action in Gaza.
Okay, so now it's my turn to ask Hazem. Just take a pause. So Eliana, what did you want to say?
No, I'm just asking, he's talking here about, first of all, I have a question. If a person is bombing you, if a person is attacking you, if a country is attacking your nation and your teenagers and your children, what would you do? Would you just wait and not answer? So the Israeli way.
So Eliana, stop. Take a pause. So Hazem can actually answer that question if you meant it as a real question.
Finish me saying my sentence.
Let me. What you are asking me is the answer of your question, actually, because you are saying like, what do you think if someone attacking you or hitting you or air striking you? You're like, you know, we are living like now for 7 nights or over than that. I mean, we cannot sleep properly. You know, I cannot sleep. I have to wait until the Israeli airplanes and warplanes.
All right, so Hazem, let me just jump in here and just ask you very directly. Eliana said, what would you do if that was happening to you? And your answer was, these are the conditions in Gaza. What's the most direct answer you can give her? Hazem?
Yes, sorry, I couldn't hear you.
What's the most direct answer you can give her? You're telling us, you're painting this picture of life in Gaza, really tough life in Gaza. But when she's asking you, what would you do if this happened to your community? What is your direct answer to her?
I couldn't hear the question.
All right, we're going to move. I'm going to take the opportunity just to move on just a little bit. So hold tight, Malika.
Bringing in a different view here, we got this on Facebook from Aaron. He says Palestinians claim that they're all united against a catastrophe, which is the Jewish state. So their violent course is going to bring a violent response. Is that something that you hear from people that you see? And is this something that you can explain, this way of thinking?
I think that the debate between Eliana to Hazem was really representative of what's going on. You know, hundreds of kids are going to sleep today in bomb shelters in Sderot, and you know, I'm sure the Israelis know you don't need to visit Gaza to know what it feels like to live under rocket threat. Just from noon today 21 rockets has been rained over Israel. And I think that both sides, retaliating one to another and keeping on this violence will not get us anywhere. And I know that, again, and my heart is going out to the Palestinians, but you need to understand what is the consequences of those attacks, of 21 rockets. Which other country will allow 21 rockets to be launched, 16,000 rockets actually from 2009 to be launched on its border? So I think that the response of Israel is very proportionate. It's pinpoint airstrikes, unlike the rockets that are coming from the Hamas, from the Gaza Strip, that are just launched to the space and hoping that it will strike a high school or a kindergarten. The pinpoint airstrikes of the IDF, the IDF is trying to avoid collateral damage, and sometimes, I'm telling you, war is hell because I saw it and I know how horrible it is. People die at wars, and it's horrible. No blood.
You're talking about war, but at the same time you're justifying it. I think what I'm seeing here is being selective with the injustice that's going on here. You were crying when you were talking about the settlers, but now you were actually justifying what the Israeli army is doing to Gazan people, which is collective punishment. It has been collective punishment for decades.
It's a collective punishment to launch 16,000 rockets over the southern area of Israel. The southern area of Israel should not be punished because the Hamas is deciding to launch 16,000 rockets.
All right, guests, we're going around in circles just a little bit. I want you to come here to my laptop and just remind you why we're having this conversation in the first place. So here I've got Eyal, Gilad and Naftali. These were the Israeli teens who were discovered dead. And then we also have here Mohammed, who is the Palestinian teen who was found dead in the last 24 hours. So when we're looking at two communities warring against each other and the kids are dying, why is that even acceptable, Eliana?
No one is saying that this is acceptable. I just would like to make sure that as of now, the young Arab Mohammed that you just showed, nothing has been proved that he has been killed by Israelis. As of now, we do not know. So I wouldn't. As of now,
does it matter how? Does that matter? The fact that we've got dead teens and it looks like they're caught between these two communities. As I understand it, also with the Israeli teens, who's actually come forward to say, actually, we were responsible for that act of terror.
Listen, as of now, there are two things that are being said regarding the death of that young kid. One thing is that it might be...
He's called Mohammed.
Mohammed. Once is being said that Mohammed has been kidnapped and killed.
All right. So let's get back. We've got less than a minute, Eliana. So less than a minute. So let's be direct. Yes, and I'm going to ask you to push just a little bit longer, Eliana, because I asked about the kids.
No, that's
asked
not
about
fair.
the kids.
Let me finish my sentence.
And Eliana, we're going to finish the program right now. So make it brief and one sentence. Go ahead.
I'm saying this kid, it might be a family issue and that's why he has been killed. This is not right to bring kids in the picture 100%. We're not supporting and we're not saying that this is what should be done. The situation is terrible. The amount of stress that the Israeli society has been going through in these past 3 weeks is on a very high level.
Okay.
The amount of cruelty that has been shown in that phone conversation where you hear Gilad calling the police and saying, I've been kidnapped, and then hearing him being shot and screaming on the phone is something that even in the worst movies you haven't seen.
All right, so Eliana, take a breath. You have to take a breath because I'm wrapping up the show and I hear that question for Hazam. We have Hashim and Hen and Eliana. As you can hear, so much more to talk about. If you want to talk to them as well, you have a question for them, #AJStream. We are taking this conversation online to stream.aljazeera.com. Now, what we'll be doing on our next show? Well, with chaos in Iraq, is this the right time for Kurds to push for independence? Tricky question for our next program. The post show is at stream.aljazeera.com. I'll see you online. Thanks for watching. Hello again, this is the Stream's online post show. We're continuing our discussion on the increasing violence between Palestinians and Israelis following the deaths of 3 Israeli teens. So we still have with us Eliana Gerfinkel. She's an Israeli student. Hashem Abu Shama is a Palestinian activist and student. Hazem Balusha is an independent journalist. And Ken Mazig is the education director with Stand With Us. So Eliana, I had to rush you because we were literally at the end of the show. So let me just pick up on that thought that you wanted to make. Go ahead.
I'm just saying that here there are 2 terrible things that are going on. As of now, we don't know that if Mohammed, that Palestinian kid that has been found this morning, has been killed because of national reasons, meaning Palestinian versus Israelis. So I would not say right now that there is that the Israelis are going to do a revenge against the Palestinians, as many people would like to say. There is a rule that you shouldn't touch kids. Kids have been kidnapped 3 weeks ago in a terrible way. The state has been going through a lot of emotions and a lot of overwhelming. It's never okay to bring kids in the picture. Unfortunately, as of now, the 3 kids that for sure have been killed because they were Jewish are 3 Jewish kids: Eyal, Gilad, and Naftali.
So you say that revenge isn't necessarily what's on people's mind when we're looking at this terrible situation with youngsters being killed. I just want to show you something from an anti-Arab rally in Jerusalem. I'm intrigued to see what you have to say about this as well. So have a listen to this. And what this crowd is yelling is "Death to Arabs." And this rally was from July the 1st. So there's certainly a sense out there, even if it's not coming from you, Eliana, and not coming from you, Hen, that people are very upset, and maybe vengeance is on their mind. Hen, am I getting that right? Do you feel that that is a good way to describe the situation right now from Israelis?
Yeah, I think it's sad that we are focusing on this kind of, fringe radical groups that, by the way, from the demonstration that you just showed, 47 people were arrested, 47 people, among them a 17-year-old Israeli that was jumping and attacking Israeli policemen. So Israel is taking care of people that are doing these kind of things. On the other hand, I'm sad that you didn't show protests from Kikar HaChatulot in Jerusalem, where over 1,000 people, I think that in this protest we had about 100, over 1,000 people went with signs and said, revenge is not a Jewish moral. We will not revenge. We will inspire for peace, protesting for peace, calling for peace. This is what I see around me from the Israeli society. Yeah, there is fringe extremists, just like in any society, but in the Israeli society, they are being arrested and they are being prosecuted. Like the 47 people that are being prosecuted, among them teenagers, that did something wrong. But when you do something wrong, you pay. This is a country attempt.
Yeah, but on the other hand, but Muhammad was killed in Shafat, which is part of Jerusalem, which is under the Israeli security forces, and we didn't see any raid or any reaction from the Israeli army.
They closed the roads immediately after they got the phone call. They closed the roads.
They closed the roads because
and they search for him everywhere.
Yes. And now they're shooting Palestinians. More than 60 injuries are now in Shafat refugee camp in Shafat area and in Jerusalem. More than 60. 2 of them are journalists from Palestine TV. One of them is Christine Rinawi.
When you throw stones at soldiers, when you beat the hell. I saw some videos today that I was shot of Israelis that unfortunately found their way in Shafat and were beat up by the protesters. You don't riot when something like that happens. You can't. It's not eye for eye, and we don't know what happened to this young teenager Muhammad. We'll find out, and then the people that done it will be prosecuted. I can assure you that.
Okay, Malika.
Well, Chen, it's interesting you said that. People are also saying we don't actually know who was responsible for the deaths of the 3 Israelis also. One person here is responding to something you said a little bit earlier, Eliana. Jamila tweets in, nobody has proved that Hamas is responsible for killing of the Israeli teens. It has denied it, whereas it took responsibility in the case of Shalit, the soldier that was mentioned earlier. But I want to shift gears a little bit here and give us a little taste from on the ground. And this is a Facebook comment from Lena. She asked us not to identify her last name and her picture. She lives in the West Bank, and she writes, several of my friends were attacked and many had their cars stoned and shattered by Israeli settlers chanting slogans that call for the death of Arabs. And this corresponds to the video you played, Femi. She goes on to say, Israeli deaths are treated with sanctity and respect, while Palestinian deaths are dismissed as numbers and mere statistics. Hazem, is that something that resonates with you? Hazem?
Yes.
Can I jump?
Hazem, she talks about this
Hazem,
this Facebook comment, this is from Lena in the West Bank, and she talks about Israeli deaths being treated with more respect than Palestinian deaths to the outside world. Is that something that resonates with you?
I couldn't hear the question, sorry.
That's okay, Hazem. She talks about the significance
sorry,
of
can
death.
you repeat it? Because, sorry. Can you repeat it?
It sounds like Hashem is trying to get in. Hashem, do you want to respond to that?
Yeah, I want to respond to that. It's actually a very accurate comment. Hamas didn't say it was responsible for the kidnapping of the Israeli settlers. No Palestinian has actually claimed the kidnapping of the Israeli settlers. And what she said about Palestinian lives is very accurate. In 2010, more than 1,000 Palestinians were killed in the Gaza, and nothing was done to them from the international community. As a Palestinian who lives in a refugee camp, it's one of the refugee camps that lie right next to a mutual street between Israeli settlers and Palestinian citizens, and my refugee camp gets attacked by settlers weekly. Actually, on the 11th of November in 2009, Israeli settler from Josh Atzion got into my refugee camp and shot two of my friends, Mu'taz and Ibrahim, and they were injured, and one of them is disabled for life. So that's what we see from Israeli settlers. Yesterday, coming back from Hebron, I saw a tent of Israeli settlers on the street, and they were throwing stones at Palestinians passing through the street. So I think that even empathizing with the Israeli settlers from the Palestinian community is hard, because what we see from settlers is terrorism, is daily terrorism.
All right. So it's really interesting having this conversation, because we have Palestinians in this conversation, we have Israelis in this conversation. Let me show you something here from Jonathan Cook, and it says, it takes a cartoonist to say something honest in the coverage of the killed Israeli teens. This is a cartoon from The Guardian, and here you see on the measuring scale, down at the bottom we have Jewish deaths, and then at the top we have Palestinian deaths. It is a cartoon, but is it something that resonates with you, Eliana? Do you even think about the way that different people's tragedies are covered regarding whether you're Palestinian or whether you're Israeli? Does that resonate? Do you feel that? Give us the other side.
No, not at all. First of all, I'm going to start with something. I speak fluently 4 languages. I read French, Hebrew, Spanish, and French. So I get to see what the world writes about what's happening in Israel. The world hasn't been really talking about anything that has been happening in Israel with the kidnapping of the 3 kids. The first thing I
seen, can
I just finish my sentence? Thank you.
Yeah, finish.
The second thing I've seen that yes, in the world, people have been saying a lot about how Israel was firing into Gaza without...
All right, so Eliana, I am going to do what you hate, which is interrupt you, but it's for a good reason. I don't care about the rest of the coverage. I care about what you have to say and whether you see this perspective. Only what Eliana is actually thinking.
Eliana thinks that this cartoon doesn't really show a reality. This is not right. I don't think that the 3... what I can say for sure is that Israel... we love life. For us, the life of one person is extremely important. We will never use our children as shields, and we'll never put weapons under a hospital and then make that happen, that the Israelis would bomb where weapons are and then kill people. We will never do this. What we do, we build shelters for children, and we don't use our children as shields.
All right, so you know what I'm hearing? Do you know what I'm hearing? I'm feeling there's so much pain in this conversation. It's really, really a painful conversation to even listen to, and you're actually living this life. Let me start with Hen. Literally, when I say one sentence, it has to be one sentence, because we're going to be off the air in about 3 minutes, less than that. So Hen, what's the way forward? from this
My
point?
organization, Stand With Us, believes that education is the path for peace. And when the Israeli dad was asked, the Israeli dad of one of the children that were killed, he was asked, what do you think about this case with Muhammad, the Palestinian teenager that was killed today? He said, if it's a Jewish or Israeli, whoever it is, he should be brought to justice.
Right.
When the mother of one of the suspects of the Palestinian kidnappers was asked, what do you think about your son if he did it, by an Israeli channel, she said, I'll be honored if he did it. I think that's conclude the situation.
Right.
When education will be focused on love instead of hate,
Right.
we'll be here.
All right.
Here with open heart.
Okay, guests, I'm going to ask you, respect each other's sentence. You have one sentence to end on. Eliana, your one sentence is what? What's the way forward for us? For you?
The way forward for us and the way we can achieve something here, again, education is the right thing, but also I believe that we should be careful where we're going, and at the same time, I believe that there's a need of justice.
Right.
If 3 kids are being kidnapped, we need to prevent any more kidnapping to happen.
All right, and the way forward, Hisham, for you very, very, very briefly, because we're out of time right
I just want to say a comment very quickly. I think we should include in the education, you should include a Palestinian perspective, and you should teach the love for not only the Israeli community, but also for people from other nationalities, for the African immigrants in Israel, for Palestinian minority in Israel. The way forward for me as a Palestinian who lives under military occupation is to end the occupation by non-violent resistance from the Palestinian community, with the support from the international community by boycotting Israel.
All right, Hashim Abu Shama, Hazan Balusha, Hen Mazig, and Eliana Garfinkel, thank you for sharing your thoughts on this really tough time for Israel right now. We really appreciate your time. Meanwhile, let me move forward with what we'll be doing on the next program. Well, chaos in Iraq, but is this the right time for Kurds to push for independence? A very tough question for our Thursday show. See you then.